everyone, I'm Rachel Baker Artist. I'm a pet portrait artist and I also teach beginners how to paint. So today I'm going to be taking you through this acrylic painting tutorial. It's going to be nice and easy, step by step, and you can follow along at your own pace. So I'm going to be taking you through this hand painting here. We're going to be using the grid method to get our composition. If you want to change that, you can do. You can use your own hand as a reference if you want to as well. And as we get going, you can use whatever paint you want. I'm going to be taking you through acrylic because it's super friendly for beginners to use. And you can personalize it if you want to. You can add rings, tattoos, you can do little drawings on top if you want to. Totally up to you. So I really hope you enjoy this. You're going to get the little down view of me painting this, and I'll take you through everything you're going to need.
So here we are, here's everything that you're going to need for today. So we've got a canvas board here in the middle. This is a 8 by 10 inch canvas board. You can of course go for a different one if you want, or you can tape paper down. It'll work really well. We've got a pencil and a ruler and a rubber for our drawing out to do our grid method. We've got 2 paintbrushes, a medium one and a small one. You just want to break the bristles up. Some kitchen roll, and then we've got a pot of water over here. I've got an old jam jar. And then over here on the palette, I've covered it in cling film for easy cleaning. We've got black, white, and then we've got our primary colours, yellow, red and blue, and some sky blue. You can do this with pretty much any colours you like, but these will be the main ones I'm going to be using today. So before we get painting, we are going to have to draw out our hand first. We are going to use the grid method. So this is, we are going to draw a grid onto our canvas or our paper, and it's going to match the grid on our prompt. The prompts one is going to be 8 going across and 10 going down. So we're just going to mark this out, and we're going to draw it really nice and gently with our ruler. I don't want you to kind of score it into the canvas or the paper. We want it really nice and light so we can rub it out later on. So we are doing the grid method just because it is the best way of getting compositions to have the perfect proportions. So we're just going to go through this, and it's going to give us really great proportions at the end of it, and it's going to make our hand look like a hand. So I'm just going to go along here. I'm going to follow my prompt. So we're going to start 6 squares up, and we're going to start at the thumb, and we're going to work our way around the hand. You can start wherever you like. I'm going to start with the outline and then work my way in. So just following this around, and I want you to make sure it's all nice and curved. You're not really doing any straight lines, and you're following the shapes in your hand. So I'm now going on to the fingers. Again, I'm just going through each one of these squares at a time. And then on our hand, we've got our little kind of grooves. We're just going to mark these out as well, and just make sure everything's nice and curved and following the shapes. Again, you're drawing this super nice and lightly, and if you go wrong at any point, you can just use your rubber just to get rid of any bits. And then you're going to draw my nails on. You can of course do these hands completely differently. You could do a different shape if you want. You can kind of stick with this if you want to, or you can create your own prompt and you just change up how many squares you're doing to fit whatever you want to do. And you can do this with pretty much any photo if you want to as well. There are so many apps out there for you to do this. So I'm just doing the creases within the hand. So I'm just marking these out now, making sure it's got nice little curves. And then in a minute we'll get painting. So I'm just following these round. And now what I want you to do is get rid of your grid lines. So really try and rub these out for me, especially if you're going to do a white background like I have. We will cover this up, but we just want to give our paint the best chance of covering up everything by getting rid of the grid lines first. Once you finish with your rubber, I want you to brush away all of your erasings, make sure they're out the way so it doesn't get caught up in your paint. And now we're going to paint the background, and what we're going to do is we're going to take our medium paintbrush, give it a really good wash and a little bit of a dry to take off the excess water. And I'm going to take some white. If you want to do a different colour background, by all means go for it. Just take whatever colour you want and then just brush it onto your canvas. You don't want this to be too runny, you want it to be quite thick so that it covers up the grid lines if you can still see them. But you can go or as thick, as thin as you want with this paint. So you're going to bring this right around the edge of the hand. So we're going to bring it right up to the outline. If you feel like you can't get there, you just want to take your smaller paintbrush and bring it right around the edges. If you have a box canvas or a canvas board like I have, you might want to paint the edges as well. This is called wrapping your canvas. If you just got a bit of paper though, you can leave that bit. So just remember, as you're painting, you can of course paint at your own speed and everything's going to be step by step. So please just pop this video on pause at any point and catch up when you're ready. So for our next bit, we're going to be mixing our little skin colour here. So make sure you wash your brush for me, make sure it's nice and clean, and then we're going to take some yellow and some red and mix it together. It's going to make like an orangey colour. We're going to use a little bit more yellow than we do red. And then we're going to take a bit aside and mix some white paint into it. So this is going to make our like peachy skin colour. So this is going to be our lightest colour of the whole hand. And I'm just going to add a little bit more white into it. Give it a really nice mix, and then what you're going to do is we're going to use kind of the upper half of the hand. We're going to paint all the way around. So on every part where it's facing upwards, we're just going to paint a little bit of this colour on. Don't worry if it's too orangey for now. We are going to put some kind of white into this in a minute, and it's going to really brighten up just some parts of it for us. So now wash that brush for me, and then I'm going to take my small brush this time with a little bit of water and some white paint on it, and I'm just going to brush just a few flecks of this white into the paint that's already on the canvas. So this is just going to mix nice and gently for us on the canvas rather than mixing the colours separately, and it's just going to add a few little lighter tones in this colour. So once you've finished with each colour, just make sure you give your paintbrush a really nice wash for me. Make sure it's nice and clean before you go on to the next one. So what we're going to do now is we are going to use a little bit more of an orange this time. So I've mixed a little bit of a pink using some of the red and the white, and then I've mixed a bit of that orange that we used earlier into this. Now we're going to go on the lower half, so we're not covering up too much of what we've already done, but we're just adding a few of these orange tones back in. So keeping this on the lower parts of the hand as we go round. So kind of like the lower parts of the fingers, and if you think of where a shadow's going, this is going to be where that orange part is. Again, when you're ready to change colour, give it a really good wash for me. Then we're going to take some red and a bit more white this time to make more of a pinky colour. Again, you can switch to a smaller brush if you want to. And we're just going to brush this a little bit on top of where we've done these orange bits. So I still want to be able to see the orange. You don't want to cover it up too much, but we're just slowly taking just some of this pink into that. Now with acrylic paint, it always builds up. So you can just keep adding to this if you want to. You may find that if it's too wet, it might start to mix your colours, and we don't really want that to happen. So you might want to let it dry for a few minutes, or go back to a different colour, and then you can just add when you're ready. So now with a clean paintbrush, I'm just going to give it a really nice wash, and we're going to take some sky blue and mix it together. This is not going to be our lightest blue, so you want to keep this a little bit darker than the others. And we're going to again take this around the shadowy part of the hand. So keeping it on the left hand side of this thumb here, and as we go into our palm as well, and we're just adding just a little bit on. Hopefully the colours aren't blending too much, as we just want it to kind of sit on top. If it does start to blend at any point, just remember that you can use a little bit of clean kitchen roll to kind of take it away with a bit of water, or even a wet wipe. That will get rid of any mistakes for you. So when you're ready, we are going to go on to our purple. So you're going to take some red and the darker blue and mix it together. It's going to be more blue than it is red to make a really nice purple colour. Now with this one, we're going to be a little bit different. We're not going to go really thick with this paint. We're actually going to use quite a bit of water in it to make it more of a wash. So if you want it to go quite thick and dark with that purple, you want thicker paint. If you want to go really nice and light to begin with, use a little bit more water like I am, and it will gently cover up some of the other colours. So you should still be able to see some of them coming through. And we're using this more not to outline everything. If you just kind of follow the hand round, we're just kind of outlining just a few little bits and just adding a few shades with this darker purple. Remember these rounded creases going around our fingers? We're going to start marking these back in. So just make sure they're all curving really nicely and following that shape of the hand. So now this purple is bringing everything together really nicely. What we're going to do is we're going to go back into a bit of a more light blue. So we're going to take some sky blue and some white and mix it together. I'm sticking with my small brush for now, but you can go with the big one if you want to. And we're just adding a few little bits. I'm going to go around part of the nail as well here. And just a few little parts inside this hand. It's going to be better to do less than it is going to be to do more with this bit, and then you can add more later on if you need to. Then once you've done that, you're going to give your paintbrush a really nice wash for me, and we're going to start on our black. So with your black, you want it nice and runny just so that it moves, but you don't want it so runny that it starts to drip or anything. So we're going to start by just doing a few bits of shadow, just working on parts of the finger here. If you go too far with this, you can always leave it to dry for a little while, and then you can go back on and just mix a little bit of white into whatever colour you're using, and it will help it be a bit more opaque and you can cover things up. But for now, we're just going to work round, just adding a few little bits of shade into our fingers. And then into these parts of the palms where it's kind of curved round a little bit more. We want to put a little bit more black in here just because it's going to be kind of covered up a little bit. I'm now working into the crevices in the hand, so these kind of little creases and stuff. I'm doing it really nice and lightly. I want to keep it really nice and thin, so I just don't put so much pressure on the brush. So if you want thinner lines, you just don't put as much pressure on. If you want them thicker, you can kind of really push the brush down to make that line much thicker. So now we'll give your paintbrush a really good wash for me. Make sure it's really nice and clean, and then if you want to add a bit more purple in, you can do. But what we're going to do now is we're going to go in with a little bit of white. So just make sure your paintbrush is really nice and clean for you to do this. You might find that your black, for example, will mix in with the white and it will go grey. You need it to dry a little bit longer before you do that. So we're just adding a few little highlights here with that white. On the nails, just certain parts of the palm as well, and on the thumb. And then if you want to as well, you can bring a little bit more of that skin tone colour back in. So that kind of peachy orange colour that we made earlier. If you need to remix it, you're going to be using some yellow, red and a little bit of white to do that. And you can just brush it on top if you need to. But once you've done that, we are pretty much done. So if you want to personalize this by doing a ring or anything, or like a bit of a drawing, you can do. If you're going to do a ring, just make sure you're following the shape of your fingers, and you don't want to do any that's kind of like a mega straight line, because we've done all these lovely curves. You want it to match that. So once you've done those little touches, you are pretty much done. So I really hope you enjoyed doing this painting. Last little touches, I would always sign the bottom down here. Me being right-handed, I do it on the right-hand corner. And I really hope you guys enjoy this, and I hope you paint with us again.